Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 15th Plan and Zone meeting. I am your temporary chair this evening, Ann Kapler. Roy is with us, but by phone tonight. So we're happy to see a few people here. Let's begin, Lisa, with the roll call.
Adam.
Here.
Ganaway. Gibson. Kapler.
Here.
Ormsby. Here. Stoltenberg. Wendland.
Here.
Very good. Thank you, Roy. Again, welcome, folks. We are the Plan and Zone Commission. We are a recommending body to City Council. We consider a number of items, such as site development plans, replats, final plats, rezoning, and we welcome your input. If anyone does have a comment to make, we would appreciate it if you would step to the podium in the back so that we can capture you with the microphone and the camera. And we'd like to have you state your name and your interest in the case. With that, I think we'll go ahead and look at the minutes from the meeting of August 18th. Do we have a motion for approval?
I'll move for approval of the minutes of the August 18th meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you, Roy. Okay. Greg, we have a short agenda tonight, but I know you have a lot of information to share with us. So let's begin with case 21067, the site development plan.
Madam Chairwoman, the first case we have tonight is a site plan access coming in off of 53rd Avenue and then down Pandit Drive. Currently, there are 4 lots that are here, and they will be replatted in a configuration of approximately, or I should say 12 lots. The area is zoned R5, so what petitioner is asking for is within the bounds of possibilities with the townhouses that are anticipated for this location. This is the replatting called Everest Summit 7th Edition, showing the 12 lots being replatted so that there will be configurations possible for all of the townhouses, the 12 that are anticipated for this location. And this shows the 12 townhouses in blocks of 6 that are permitted under the zoning, the R3 zoning in this particular arrangement. There is also a variance that was granted to take the side yard setback down to 12 feet, and that was processed by the Board of Adjustment. That was the intended design for these particular structures. These structures will look like the existing ones that we see here with not much change. Also, the petitioner presented a landscape plan that will meet the requirements necessary for this particular locale. In reviewing this proposal, staff would recommend approval with the conditions listed in the report. I would ask, are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Greg. I'll turn to the commission. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
None here.
Greg, you said side yard setback. Did you mean the rear?
The rear yard
The
setback,
rear
yeah.
for the construction of the decks. So the end of the decks has to be 12 feet from the property line?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's already been approved by the Board of Adjustment?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's consistent with the rest.
Greg, it's Roy. I've got a couple of questions. One, will these units be subject to an HOA maintenance agreement for snow removal? I see that the front driveways look like they're virtually 100% concrete, and I'm hoping that that's maintained and controlled by one source, especially with the lack of areas on that street to deposit snow.
The snow is, the city will plow what is necessary and plow it into an area of right-of-way that is on the east side of Pandit Drive, and that's been the policy, and any remainder, I believe, would have to be arranged for disposal by the homeowners organization. Whatever the policy is now for the remaining units, or whatever is, I should say, been built already, will still be the policy for these.
Roy, this is Brent. I do believe that's correct. what Greg's talking about, and I think what you'll remember from the original additions, is that the snow was a major concern, and there was actually a dedicated snow pad added in next to the enlarged cul-de-sac. During construction
Yep.
of Pandit Drive, we were able to actually get more consistent boulevard width than we thought. So basically the 2 to 4% boulevard on the east side of Pandit Drive, we were able to get a larger width. So we've actually abandoned that snow pad and been able to successfully have room for both the city snow and the private snow removal.
Yeah, good, because I wouldn't want each individual homeowner to be responsible for their driveway, because you know where it's gonna get pushed is out in the street, so there's nowhere literally to put it between the lots from a practical standpoint, since it's concrete to concrete.
Correct.
Yep, okay, good. And then Greg, regarding, or staff and or Greg, regarding the landscape plan and the noted trees, I know there's not a lot of trees on this, but from my perspective, the trees that were installed in the initial phase of this development on 53rd were like 1-inch Home Depot caliber, 5-gallon bucket willow trees, and several of them have died, and it looks pretty bad along there. So I would encourage verification that the proper type of tree and caliber of tree be planted, because it was definitely not up to our standards with the initial development out there, and it just doesn't look very good.
Okay, thank you, Roy. Any other questions, Roy?
No, that was it.
Okay, anyone in the audience?
I have a question on
Sure, can you step back to the podium, please? Thank you.
if this is the my name is Ron Stays, and I live there on Pandit Drive in one of the townhouses. And I have a kind of a request. If you go back to the first one, the very first one that shows the plot. Yeah, that one right there. I live in one of the lower townhouses there, but if you notice up there on, what is it, Ontario Drive and Pandit Drive, I'm requesting, or hopefully suggesting, that there's a stop sign put on there for Ontario Drive. A couple times cars, they don't stop. They think they got the right of way too, so they just turn real fast and go there. I almost had one collision. My neighbor, daughter, just missed it by just a couple inches, especially the young people. They just don't stop there. I'm kind of requesting maybe a stop sign, or at least a yield sign, so they're aware that they have to yield or stop to the traffic going north and south.
Okay, Brent, can you?
Yeah, we can have staff take a look at that. There are specific legal criteria for when stop signs can be installed, and they generally involve a higher level of volume of traffic than this is going to resort to.
Yeah.
So it probably won't warrant a stop sign, but yield signs, there's a lot more leeway in.
Yeah,
what it
yield
could be,
sign.
so
However,
we'll take a look at
that
that.
other part is being developed quite a bit with new houses
absolutely.
over there. And believe it or not, we are getting a lot of traffic there now.
I think you will see even more as the 5th edition of the Woodlands
Right,
develops.
so-
So we'll keep an eye on that. And
Yeah,
and
so like I
do
say,
an
because there's going to
analysis.
definitely be an accident where some of these young kids just pull out there. I know the lady that lives across the street, she witnesses it all the time. She says they're just going, like they got the right of way.
Okay.
And I imagine an insurance company would kind of say, well, whose fault is it? Nobody's fault. Your insurance company pays for it, and their insurance company pays for the accident. That's the way they usually do. And I'm familiar with insurance companies because I was a policeman for 31 years. So I really think this is something that we should really, really look at.
Okay, thank you.
Like I say, a yield sign at the very least, and a yield sign would be fine.
Absolutely. We'll take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
sir.
Anyone else? Okay, then we'll come back to the commission.
I was wondering if we could get some clarification on the recommended action, numbers 2 and 3.
Sure. There was a development agreement entered in 2015. It addressed some of these issues like snow storage. I've reviewed it. I've talked to the lawyer for the applicant as well. And I don't feel like there's any need for revision to that. So it's been complied with. It's in conformity with this site plan. So I've got no problems with those. Those conditions are fine, but the agreement that was entered is appropriate, and no revisions to the agreement are needed.
So why is that placed on this particular
was just
development
because-
separate than what we typically, or in addition to what we typically would see?
It was, some of the things that were in that agreement would maybe typically be a plat note, but for whatever reason, they were put in a development agreement. Some of those things like the snow storage that was referenced, and some of the other odd sort of issues with the configuration of the subdivision warranted that development agreement as far as I can understand. But it's in place, it's been recorded, and it affects the development of this site, which this plan is in conformity with, so. I
So
think
this
it's fine.
parcel is included in that
Yeah,
development agreement?
correct.
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
good question, Janessa, thank you. Anything else? I don't have a lot of people here to
Okay,
make
okay.
motions, so step right up.
Madam, is that what you were, Madam Chairman? I move to approve case number 21-067, subject to staff recommendations.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Thank you, Roy. Okay.
Aye.
Case 21067 is approved. Next up, we have case 21069, another site development plan. Greg?
Madam Chairwoman, this particular site is the Old Ports Edition, and it can be accessed coming down State, and these are the two lots involved, in particular this one for a display area for Rogan Scales, which is located in that building. The plat is of Legacy Edition, and essentially what we're looking at are these, well, really one lot, but it's a coupled lot, as it were, because the building is here of the business, and this is the display area right here. And again, the access is already platted. Here is Fields Drive. Site plan shows the particular area here, and then any connectivity necessary, that there will be also an access here, and then one, potentially an emergency here to the location. And these are scales that are used to measure or weigh truck and other type of vehicular components, if you will, and it's mainly a display area, but we wanted to make sure that it was going to meet standards for what we have had in the past, which is for storage of certain sorts outdoors. We have required site plans, and this one is also in a floodplain area. It will require a floodplain development permit as part of the process, and that will have to be processed prior to any issuing of a building permit. Staff, in reviewing this proposal, would recommend approval with the conditions listed in the report. I would ask, are there any questions? By the way, the berming here and the tree count, they do meet our standards for this particular zoned locale.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Mark, I neglected to ask earlier, is there any developments on this case since it came to us?
Thanks, Madam Chairwoman. I think we have the floodplain permit either in process or completed, so I think that part is done. I don't think we have it as part of your packet, but we do have photos of another site that this company runs. These are really, this is not like a lay-down yard. This is a pretty neat-looking place. They store these things for use. I think they take them to different places in the country, and it's a really nice-looking facility. Some green space in front of it. So, you know, we think the berming and the screening that they're putting in place are going to look aesthetically very nice, very pleasing. Probably more than what you might imagine when you hear of a storage yard or a lay-down yard. I think you'd be surprised how nice this will look.
So just for my own clarification, I'm hearing storage and I'm hearing display. And my sense that I'm taking away from this is the purpose is display, but the nomenclature needs to be storage because of how things are written for the city?
I think both are true. Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's both storage and display.
okay,
They're not exclusive of each other.
okay. All right,
Greg, do you happen to have one of those photos from their other
No.
site? Okay.
No, but it's bermed, the berms look like they're about 3.5 feet in height, and it's very difficult to see through the bermed area.
okay. That was the only clarification I was looking for. Any
I have,
questions
I
from the
have one, just
commission?
out of curiosity's sake. Under stormwater detention, Brent, it says that the stormwater will be permitted to be conveyed to the east fork of Pigeon Creek. What does that entail?
So the stormwater retention is actually in place already for this detention, or for this entire.
That area,
addition.
right?
And
Mhm.
it does flow to that. Honestly, if I didn't catch that note, that's actually not correct. They've got a little bit of a split, so the majority of their stormwater heads to the street, and heads from back to front. I think what they're talking about is there is a small portion of the lot that actually drains to the rear. It really didn't get needed, but stormwater retention is already in place for the entire addition.
Okay.
And I do want to point out, in case anyone has a question, that the title on the detail is not the best, but for the laid-on yard, the yard, they're calling it a proposed gravel section. It is not gravel. Obviously, we don't allow gravel. If you actually read the note, it's recycled asphalt millings, which are a dustless surface, so it's a milling surface. The title is a little misleading. So that will meet our requirements.
Okay. Roy, did you have any questions?
No questions on this one.
Okay. Anyone in the audience? What an easy group we have tonight.
I wonder if it's in another
Okay,
report.
hearing no further questions, we'll come back to the commission.
It is.
I'll move for approval of case number 21-069, subject to staff recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that case is passed. And we very quickly moved through our agenda tonight. I feel like this maybe is a reward for past meetings. Thank you. But let's move forward with the commission update.
Yeah, just two things to remind you that are going on in the background is we do have a zoning update that we're working on to our zoning ordinance. We have sent a lot of the information that we gathered at the zoning summit we did in October, nearly a year ago now. We've sent other staff comments with things that we think need to be improved. Those are being processed. We have a meeting coming up with our consultant MSA probably at the end of this month to see where they're at on those updates. Those will, of course, be shared with you, and all that would be brought through this body for your review. The other thing is that I've been working with Iowa State University to try and bring, would have been the gentleman that did our summit on-site for some on-site specific planning and zoning training that the state of University of Iowa State, offers. That gentleman has taken another job, and so getting that scheduled has taken longer than I thought, but we think we'll be able to have somebody come and do an on-site P&Z training, hopefully before it gets too cold out, so.
I'm glad you think we're trainable. That's good.
Yes.
Maybe if I could add one thing, just it's specific to council, and Mark may have already told you, but council did delay for 2 weeks the approval of the cottages at McClellan Heights final plat. We actually had a third-party engineering firm do a quick review for us on possibly creating that new intersection like we discussed
Yeah.
at whatever you want to call it, because it's Burlington Coat Factory, Brugger's, whatever you want to call it, that new intersection. We wanted to make sure before we got too far along that was feasible, and we've now completed that, so that will be going back to council next week.
And are you in a position to share any of that information?
Yeah,
with
yeah,
us?
it lays in very well.
Okay.
The dollar amount's a lot higher than what we were thinking. You know, you've got 10-inch paving through there, and it looks like there is not a lot of it that we'll be able to salvage in the intersection. So where that falls in council's priorities when we come to CIP planning, we can't say yet. But there was nothing that stuck out from a feasibility perspective. It laid in pretty well.
Is that all Bettendorf? There's no
That
Davenport
is.
component to
Yeah,
that?
that is all Bettendorf, correct.
Okay. I think that was a really good move.
So I think council will want to proceed with it. You know, it may end up being in year 2 or 3 or 4 of the 5 year, as opposed to, you know, maybe in a year, but you got to figure he's not going to be in for, really probably till the end of next year. I think you'll start seeing maybe a few
Right.
people that'll take occupancy. So if it was able to be done in year 2 or 3, yeah, I think that's very feasible, but council may decide to want to do it quicker. Ultimately, that's up to them.
Okay. Interesting. Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. I think at this point, we are adjourned.